Yep. Y'all ready for this? Something about guys?
I don't know where I got that. You know, some digitizer somewhere did. I don't think that's Bob, but you know, catching is a very wide area relative to the skill set. So I'm going to just isolate on throwing today. Just want to talk about some early keys. First of all, if you're going to be a successful thrower, you have to have a clear throwing lane. It's a no-win situation if you're trying to throw through the hitter. And it's pretty much a losing proposition. The only time is to third base, and I'll show you that in a little bit. We like to have momentum. Now you can gain momentum with a little shuffle step, or you can gain momentum with just a catch, load, and throw. And I think that probably we don't do enough catch, load, and throwing without that little short momentum step, especially in 3-ball counts, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And then velocity. And Kyle alluded to velocity. His young 3-year-old just throw the ball hard. For me, this is the most important factor in throwing, velocity. I think often we start catchers off to become good technicians. It's like starting pitchers off to become pitchers rather than good throwers. You got to be a good thrower first. If you're going to be a good hitter, you got to develop a swing before you learn how to hit. And in catching, what happens very often is we get this accuracy thing in front of the velocity thing. So they develop a set of skills that is accurate, but it's a time and distance game. And so they never throw anybody out. They're accurate, but they're always 2-4, 2-5, 2-6. It's like, you know, that first time that the young player started to pitch, the coach handed him the ball. He says, Johnny, he says, just go at it, just hit your target. Just go ahead and hit your so Johnny became a target hitter. And then he got to the upper levels of baseball, and he was a good target hitter, and he tried to make the lower level team, but he couldn't get anybody out because he was throwing 60 miles an hour. You know, there was no intent. And it's the same thing here when you're developed in this throw skill. Velocity is the #1 thing. And now I always work backwards. I always say it's a lot easier to say whoa than giddy up. So I'll work from velocity, work back down to a level of body control where I can be accurate. So it's a sliding scale, because the throwing process in professional baseball or anywhere for that matter, if you video it, and let's just say it's a 30 frames a second video, the catch-release process from the time the ball hits the catcher's glove to the time the ball gets airborne is about 20 frames. And let's just, we're assuming that an average big league thrower from catch to the catch at second base is 2 flat. So the 2 flat process, in say a big league type catcher, 20 frames from catch to release and 40 frames of ball flight. So the ball flight, this velocity here, is more important than quick release, because it occupies 2/3 of the elapsed time in the throwing process. So I'd much rather start with velocity and have the guy spray the ball all over, throw it in the center field, throw it in the right center field, bounce it, and then work back towards the accuracy side of it. Then anticipation is important. In a running situation, it's the catcher's responsibility to anticipate that the runner is running, so that you gain some type of momentum. It's not surprise, where it's catch the ball with no momentum, going from a dead start. Body in motion tends to stay in motion, but it's got to be under control. I hear all too often, well, the first baseman you didn't tell me he was going to go. Well, that's not his responsibility for me. It's your responsibility. By your knowledge of the game, you know what's going on in that other dugout. The scoreboard tells you if it's a running situation. The personnel tells you if it's a running situation. So you cannot be surprised. You have to anticipate. All right. Everything starts with a stance. Stance is very individualized. Okay, but I'm going to give you some general thoughts on stance that will help you develop velocity and accuracy. In the early days, the big emphasis, well, hey, in a running situation, get your butt up. So the early days, guys would have their butt up and their back flat. Well, this is so far away from a throwing posture, and it's such a tension. There's so much tension in this type of setup. It's almost like you're having to look at the ball through your eyelids. And so now you're seeing more and more the setup is butt down a little bit more, head up, and the catcher is more in a vertical position with his chest. As soon as he starts getting his chest down, okay, that's pushing his momentum forward. Now I got to raise up to throw. From here, when I throw, my butt's underneath me. My center of mass is right between my feet. I'm in this position to throw as opposed to having to come from here and then getting your weight back. The thing that you don't want to do is have your weight back on your heels. Shoulders width, a little wider than shoulders width. A lot of catchers are really toe out right now. I'm not a real big fan of this extreme toe out position. The reason being, when you have to start to move right and left, if I'm moving to the left, especially on a ball in the dirt, okay, the ground effect is coming off of this right foot. And when I block to the left, my right knee is going to hit first. If my toe's out, I don't have as much surface area to push off. There's a lot more edge control where I can work against the ground a lot more efficiently to move side to side. A little bit out, that's fine. But the theory was, well, if I'm out, I don't have to open up. But I don't see that as a factor. So just be careful that no extremes. No extremes, okay, and very individualized, okay. And well, I'd like to have early target, low target, and for me the target is the top of my glove is the bottom of the guy's knees if I'm throwing down. Now certainly if I'm throwing up, my target is going to change a little bit, and I like an early target. I like an early low target, okay. And a lot of pitchers or coaches feel, oh, you get an early target, they'll relay the pitches or the location. Well, pitchers don't hit their target. Even big league pitchers don't hit their target very often. I'm not too concerned about that. I can always set up early and I can move late. Pitchers have a real good capability of following a moving target. You'd be surprised. Okay? And I'm going to set up with my hands fairly close to my body. I don't want to be too extended here because A, it creates tension, and B, if I catch the ball extended, then what do I have to do? I have to bring my hands back to get it loaded to throw. The ball's going to move faster from here to here than your hands are, so I start with my hands back to my body, my elbows out. I don't want to get my elbows locked in here inside my knees because then I'm blocked out getting balls, especially to my glove hand side. So elbows above my knees and out, okay? Bare hand, you see a lot of guys now with their hand behind their back, even in running situations. Not a big fan of that, but it all depends. I had David Ross in the minor leagues, the guy that catches for Boston, and he was a one-handed guy, and he would catch the ball and then make the transfer. He didn't expose his hand. A lot of guys, they're here, and as the ball's in the air, they bring their hand up, which to me is dangerous because what happens? When balls get fouled off, they do one of two things. They go down or they go up. They go down a lot, okay? So now I'm in a position where I'm in danger. I don't mind this position in here in my hand or even behind the glove with my hand on a flat side and my thumb behind my index finger. Some guys like a loose fist. The only problem with a loose fist is the tendency is to extend. But the overriding factor is you keep your hand at the same level to pitch, you're pretty good. Because what happens? Balls get fouled down or up. They don't get fouled sideways. Okay?
Jerry, you might leave that out of while you're doing Jerry.
Oh, really?
Yes, I went through the whole presentation already.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Set up balance without having your weight too far forward. When you have your weight too far forward, it forces you into momentum with your head and shoulders down, which tends to spike the ball into the ground. Feet wider than shoulders, similar to your receiving stance. Knees straight or pointed out slightly, toes pointed out, momentum, right foot lead. Now, what you're seeing here, there's your stance. This guy, for me, is a little bit too bent over. This is a little bit more upright. But a quick transfer, catching the ball deep. Okay, so he's not reaching for the ball. Reaching for the ball puts him in a position where he's going to be, his center of mass is going to be forward. He's going to bounce a lot of balls, and the ball is going to move faster. when he catches the ball deeper. It's almost like, I tell him, you're taking the ball out of your shirt pocket. Now you're going to see some variation. Some catchers want to catch the ball a little bit farther in front. It helps their momentum. But everything is with a right foot lead. Okay, transfer. Again, I talked about this. I'm catching the ball late, and it's kind of a flip transfer. It's not catch the ball, take it out and throw. The good guys, when the ball is within their body, they just kind of ricochet the ball from glove to hand to throw. The ball doesn't come to rest in the glove. Now that takes a lot of practice. Some guys don't keep their hands together close enough. A lot of times I'll take those guys and I'll just take, this costs $8.95, and I can sell you one if you want it, or you can make your own. Okay, and I just put their hands together so it forces them into close hand and glove relationship for that transfer. And the transfer is a big part of this process. You've got to work a lot on transfers, because invariably guys trying to go too fast and they drop the ball. Okay, so that's something that they're working on all the time. One of the things for me when they play catch, where they make a mistake, oh, I almost put it in my pocket again. When they play catch, you start with the ball in your glove. Okay, and this is not just for catchers, for outfielders and infielders, because part of the throwing process is what? Getting the ball out of the glove into your hand to throw. They all start with the ball in their hand to play catch. Why not start with the ball in your glove? I'm working on my transfer when I throw. Very simple thing for all position players, starting with the ball in the glove. Okay? Power B position with the arm. This position right here. I want to make sure, for me, this is the most powerful position when I get into that high cock position with the ball inside my elbow. Okay? Slight backside V. When I talk about backside V, I'm talking about this angle in here where I have a slight backside V, because now that loads me up on my backside where I can use the ground. And the relationship and the analogy that I make, it's like a Formula One race car. Okay? They've got a lot of horsepower. They're very light. Okay? And the thing that makes them go fast is the contact of the wheels with the ground. When they're so light and all that speed, what happens? The cars raise up off the ground so the tires don't get to bite into the asphalt. Kind of like as a thrower, where I got to be really connected to the ground to throw, to use the ground to my advantage. So what do they do with the race cars? They put that scoop in front, they put that wing in back. What does it do? They use the air to drive it down into the ground. It's a ground effect. It's much the same thing in throwing. You've got to use the ground. Another thing that I try and do with certain catchers, again, everything is a little bit different, is when they take this shuffle step, okay, I try and keep my toe ahead of my heel. And what that does when I load, it creates a winding effect in my back hip and in my quad, so that when I go to throw, I can be more forceful in my rotation. The more angular rotation I create, the more arm speed I create. So that's one way of, for me, when I load to throw, winding that back side. And then when I stride, toe line to target line. Okay? If I have my toe line, if my target's out there and my toe line is going this way, now what happens? Forearm fly out, I have to yank everything back in towards my target, and my arm is going to be down and everything is going to run flat. In throwing, distance magnifies bad rotation. So if I don't have good 6 to 12 rotation, 6 to 12, 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock rotation, okay? If my arm's down, the ball rotates this way, I'm going to get a lot of movement. At 90 feet or 60 feet, throwing the ball back to the pitcher, the velocity probably won't allow the movement. You know, this is kind of the Bernoulli's principle. The ball's going to move the way that it spins. So now, at 126 feet to second base, now I got a lot of tail. When I have a lot of tail, it slows the ball down, makes it that much tougher for the infielder to catch the ball. Sometimes it's going to sink, it will lack carry. The other thing, and this is different than, we've talked about what to do with this glove hand, and for me, this glove hand, and I look at all the guys that, for me, people organize their body in the most efficient way that they can, without any instruction. I'll give you a perfect example. All the best base stealers in baseball, and I'm getting away from catching, but it will relate back to what the glove does. All the best base stealers in baseball have been taught when they break to second base, the most efficient way, maybe they got a little open here, the most efficient way is what? Crossover step, right? Everyone has been taught that way. Everyone. And I looked at every good base stealer. Ricky Henderson, right on up to every guy today, Granderson or whatever. Every one of them, they drop step and they go. Okay? Why? Why do they do that? Because their body instinctively knows that that's the fastest way to get there. Why is it the fastest way? Because it puts you in line, you're gaining ground with your upper body. That's the fastest way to get there. And they've all been instructed differently. Okay? You watch all your catchers. When they throw, that glove is firm and it stays in the box. And when I talk about the box, I'm talking about the box between shoulders and hips. Whether this is correct mechanically or not, that's the way the body organizes itself. Because that's, they feel, is the most efficient way, intuitively. Okay, here is, this is Chris Snyder, and look how quick the transfer is and the release. Okay? And look how short the footwork is. One of the things I'll use, I use this little surgical tubing for the transfer. And anybody in here not see Rocky 1, the movie? What did Mick do with Rocky to improve his footwork? He tied his shoelaces together so he could establish the right base. Well, to keep that short, quick action in there with the feet, I'll use surgical tubing a lot. Because the reality is, if you use a lead step, this is what I'm talking about, this lead step, you can't throw until what happens? You can't throw until you get this foot down. The longer it takes you to get this foot down, the longer it takes you to get this foot down. You can't, I've never seen anybody throw yet with their foot up off the ground. You've got to have this foot and leg down. The other thing that you're seeing here, and Kyle talked about it, and Eric talked about it earlier today, is the firming up of that stride leg. And from a biomechanical standpoint, it's called force coupling. Because what this does at the point of release, when this, it's almost like I'm pushing back towards the backstop. What that does, it accelerates your hips, which transfers up the chain into accelerating your arm speed. Okay, here's a little different. Boom. Okay, now we got more of a release guy. This is, it looks like Rick Dempsey to me, and he's kind of a shortstop catching, and he's throwing from a low slot, and he's running the ball back on the first base side of second base. He's more of a release guy. Now you're going to have guys that have arm strength that can really throw, and you're going to have release guys that get the ball in the air in a hurry. Either way, it's really advantageous to get the ball in the air in a hurry. He's got a lot of flat and run on his ball, but he knows where to aim. So point of aim is important. The base should not be your point of aim. I don't know anybody that can look at the base and throw the ball 126 feet on a downhill plane on the base. I just don't think that's physically. I'm sure there is someone someday that's going to be able to do that. But in general, you're looking somewhere above the base on the wall, maybe somewhere on the pitcher, but you have to have a point of aim. Every day, your point of aim is going to be different depending upon the conditions. The wind's blowing in, the wind's blowing out, it's wet, it's dry, my arm feels good, my arm feels crappy, so the point of aim changes. All right? But the one thing, if I'm going to miss, I want to miss on the first base side. Now, for me, and this is another digression here, but this guy receiving the throw, I'm not a real big believer in having middle infielders straddle the base. Okay, and I'll tell you why. If he's straddling the base and he gets that same throw, what happens? He's on a collision course with that base runner. If I'm here, now the ball comes in, I can come up the line and make the tag. Now, if you want it here and then step across, that's fine. But with the new replay, if you're on the base and you get the glove down and you hit that guy on the shin, chances are his foot's already on the base. And they will review it and reverse it. So I like that second baseman or shortstop in front and maybe up the line even a little bit so they can make that sweep tag here in front of the base. Now, most of you don't have to deal with replay. But for me, the base really ties that fielder in, and it's restricted, and especially if it throws on the first base side, he's in jeopardy. Okay, here's on this top screen here, just working a little toss, middle, catching the ball deep. This is going to be low and out. Just catch it and throw it, no footwork, up and out. And I'll talk about these. Now, left-hander is going to swing a little bit away from the hitter to throw. And then this is an obstruction or interference situation. You've got to throw through the hitter. One thing, if a hitter gets in my throwing lane, like in a hit and run situation, I want to throw through that guy, and I want to make contact, and I want to sell it to the umpire. If I do that, he's out 100% of the time on interference. If I dodge that guy and try and throw, even if I'm really good, and I throw him out 50% of the time, if I'm really good, which you won't be with him in your throwing lane, go right through that guy, make contact, make it look good. All right, let's just focus in on me here, and let me just talk about this particular environment here, different pitches. The ball's on my glove hand side. Okay, we're talking about direction and momentum. So what I want to do on this ball here is rake this ball back and make that exchange. Now I'm not going to be able to flip that ball into my hand on this ball, but I'm making the change, and I want to have the separation as much as possible in front of my body up into that power V position to throw. The ball straight on, I'm catching the ball deep with a flip transfer. The ball is low and away. I'm backhanding the ball, letting the ball turn me. As I go to throw, no lead step, head's coming up. And when my head comes up, my arm comes up so I can throw the ball with backspin. If I throw from down here, the ball's going to be flat and have a lot of run. Ball's up and away. I try and get up and out, catch the ball with my head on the first base side of the ball, which allows me to open up to throw and have, my power line going straight towards my target. Left-hand hitter, I'm going to catch it as I'm moving out so that I have clearance to throw. Any one of these can be caught and thrown without a lead step, if that works best for you. One of the other things, okay? What's this? Sidearm, okay? Can I throw overhand from here? Boom. That's exactly what happens on that low outside pitch. Boom, I'm in sidearm, get my head out of the way to throw overhand with backspin. Trunk tilt, rather than where your arm is going to determine whether it has backspin or side spin on it. One of the things that we talk about all the time with our catchers in 3-ball counts is no lead step. Catch it and throw it. The reason being, in 3-ball counts, you're concerned about two things. You're concerned about getting a strike for your pitcher, because if you don't, it's ball 4, and throwing the runner out. So a lot of times, guys are caught in between. They'll catch it and hold it too long, and they're late throwing with a little bit, because they have to get momentum. So they'll catch it, and then they start their momentum. Okay? Or they start their momentum, and it's a marginal pitch, and the umpire calls it a ball because he doesn't get a good look at it. Umpires are going to call strikes balls before they call ball strikes. So what I do is I just catch it and throw. So now the catcher's not caught in between. The umpire can see the pitch, and I still have a chance to gain momentum even without a lead step. Gain momentum to throw. Got to be practiced, obviously. All right, this is throwout percentage by location from the catcher's perspective. So the catcher's over here. Okay, 20% on that low outside backhand pitch, 22, 27, 23, because this is just a tough pitch to decide how you're going to catch it. And then as the ball raises up in the strike zone, it becomes easier to throw. So, where should the majority of your practice be? Down in here. Okay, we do a lot of throw-out feeds. Where? Up here. Okay, what's the problem with that? Most of those never get to the catcher. They get hit. Okay, and if I get those, yeah, that's great. But these are the ones, the tough transfers, the tough pitch transfers, those are the ones, as a catcher, that you need to spend the majority of your time on. Okay, there's a bad transfer, kind of double clutched, didn't make the transfer, that's why it's important to work on it. Same catcher, Yorvi Torrealba. And there's a better transfer. Okay? Okay, there's a big time transfer and throw. That's 181 right there. And see where he's throwing? He's not throwing all scrunched up in here. He's throwing tall.
Who is that?
You would ask me.
Is that Bowen?
Huh?
Is that Rob?
I'm not sure who it is, but it's pretty good.
I think it's Rob.
Okay, here is poor anticipation in a running situation. Didn't get his body started. This is probably a delay steal here. You know, got totally surprised, and even though he threw the guy out. This is raking an inside pitch, keeping himself in the throwing lane, and here's what bad technique where he tries to go to the ball. This is what happens. No momentum. Real bad job at a shortstop. That can't happen. Okay, here's a left-hand hitter. Okay, swing it out to clear a lane for himself. Low it out footwork. And this one is...
Want to know on Elvis Andrews? Cardinals in first. Reader's got a second.
I'm going to run this a couple times. Can we turn the sound off on that? To me, this is how more catchers should throw all the time. That they get tied up with momentum, especially breaking balls low and away, and especially with guys with a little bit of arm strength. It's so simple, just catch, load, and throw. A lot easier to make transfers. Here's ball in the dirt with the runner running. This is Leduca. If you can backhand it, that's what you want to do because it's a lot easier to catch the ball in the top of the glove where the ball should be caught, where you can control it. You see where, right up in here, ball should be caught somewhere between my index finger and my middle finger, between my thumb. That's where you want to catch the ball, where you can control it. Now this is only if you know that guy can't go to third base if the ball goes by you. Not a good runner, close backstop. And this is ball in the dirt. Yachty picks. Okay. A lot of times, balls in the dirt, runners are taught to do what? To run. So they start to go, and they really are not committed to it, and they stop. So anytime you pick a ball in the dirt, and the guy's not running, you should look to first base because usually there's a change of direction, a change of momentum.
Jerry, question.
Yes.
How do you teach them when to block and when to pick it
Okay.
with a runner on? I mean, that's...
With a runner on base, I teach them to block every ball. The only time we pick the balls the guy's running. Okay. We block everything. We block fastballs. We block breaking balls. There's no excuse not to block every pitch. It's become an accepted practice if it's a fastball not to block it. I don't buy that. I see guys block 90-mile-an-hour plus breaking balls, yet they can't block fastballs. I don't buy that. And we're not talking about blocking right now, but since Jim talked to me, one of the things on fastballs when I block, I kick back because it happens so fast. I'm trying to buy a little time. Whereas on breaking balls, I'm moving up to cut the ball down a little bit. Okay, you guys got a good jump. Make it a close play. Okay, here's what happens. Guy gets a great jump, and you have no chance to throw him out, but you can make it a close play. What happens? The next time he gets on first base, here's what he says to himself. Man, I really had a good jump last time, and it was a close play. I got to have a better jump this time. So what happens? He doesn't run because he doesn't have a perfect jump. He doesn't run. He doesn't have a perfect jump. Boom. In those 2 pitches or 3 pitches that I buy because I made it close, what happens? Ground ball double play maybe. Pitch out with a right-hander, and I'll go over the footwork really quickly while that's running. All right, right-hand hitter. You have to practice this. Your pitchers need to practice it because they're not very good in throwing into vacant space, I guarantee you. So, first, number one, I'm going to set up with my nose on the outside corner. Okay, the first thing I do, one of the things I do when I give my signal giving process, I have them shake off first on a pitch out. Okay? Why do I have the pitcher shake off? Because nobody shakes off a pitch out or a pick. So that sets the base runner. Yeah, they're going to throw a pitch here. They're not going to pick and they're not going to pitch out because he shook off. Okay? That's number one. So my first move when the pitcher makes his first move is up and out with my right foot. This is a read step. What I'm reading is the accuracy of the pitch out. Four-seam fastball. Sometimes they throw it back in here. So I don't want to really commit to this pitch until I see where it is. Once I see that it's in the right spot, okay, I'm stepping up at a 45. I'm not stepping out sideways. 45. I'm trying to get my head on the first base side of the ball. I step, catch, left, right, left throw. So I'm throwing with momentum well in front of the plate. Your pitchers have to have a normal set and a normal, hopefully they have one stretch delivery, that they don't try and slide step, and they don't quick set, they get that base runner the right tempo. With a left-handed hitter, same thought, nose on the outside corner, very similar, left read, right left throw. Okay? Got to be practiced. He kind of shuffles out into it. And there are variations. I'm just giving you one. And you know what? They need to find out the one where they're most comfortable. This is a modified pitch out. He's sitting up and away. This is for your pitcher who can't throw pitch outs. Okay? This is for a hit and run situation where their team does a good job of looking in and reading pitch outs. This is for when you have their steal signal, but you don't want to let them know that you have their steal signal. By pitching out, chances are they'll change their signals. By throwing a modified pitch out, chances are they will not change their signals. Here's the same thing, modified with a right-hander, setting up away, going to throw up and out. And you notice that's just catch, load, and throw. And Tulo comes up in front of the base and makes the throw on the first base, makes the tag on the first base side. All right, this is runners at first and third. This is look back and throw him out. Okay, and it's not a big head turn. It's just like I have a third eye right here. Again, it's boom, I peek. What am I looking for? For me, the third baseman's glove elevates when he thinks the guy's going to run, or you just don't like what you see. If I don't like what I see, I'm going to arm fake and then react to the runner at third base. One of the things I'll do in a first and third situation, I look at the runner before the pitch. Okay? If he has a more casual lead or a more tense lead, or his lead is more in the baseline so he can keep me from seeing where he is on the base, I have a pretty good idea what he's going to do. So a little pre-pitch preparation. Pick to first, on your feet, and now on the ball down, drive that left knee to first base. All right, pick to second. All right. And any time you put a pick on as a catcher, the most important thing is that you do not take the defensive player out of position. Here's what I mean. We got a right-hand hitter up there, right-hand pull hitter. Okay? And I put a pick on with my shortstop at second base. I'm taking him out of his defensive position. They're going to roll a six-hopper through the six hole, and it's going to be a base hit if they swing the bat. So that's number one. If that happens, and the catcher puts a pick on, the middle infielder, if it's going to take him out of position, should not probably answer if that's the system that you're using. Automatic at second base on a missed bunt. This one didn't play for me. Thrown to third base. Middle in, behind the hitter, outside, through or over the hitter, and then a delay pick. Right there. That little delay pick is for that base runner that comes up and then kind of puts his head down when he walks back because he thinks the catcher is throwing the ball back to the pitcher. And now there's, he took an outside pitch because what happened? The runner at second base had a great jump, so the only chance he had was to leave early and backhand and throw behind it.
I suppose, get out of the way.
Yeah, well, yeah, hitter did a great job of helping. Yeah, that's David Gurr. That always happens. It does. It's unbelievable.
Oh, really?
Yeah, lovey-dovey baseball.
Oh.
Okay, and here we're throwing through the hitter. The hitter also accommodates us here. No step because the guy had a good jump. Here's the first and third. Arm fake. Now he comes up and reads the runner. If the runner's coming at him, he runs at him. If the runner is standing still, arm fake and run him. And if you see his back, throw straight to third base. Okay, runners on first and second. There are occasions with runners on first and second where you are going to throw to second base because you have a really good runner on third and not so good a runner at first base. So that we don't worry about this guy at third base. Or we have an opposite field hitter up there, left-handed or left-handed pull hitter. We don't want the third baseman to vacate. He's so far away. So we'll just throw to second base. You have to have a signal system to alert the infielders that you're going to throw to second base rather than third base. Okay, let's show those drills, please. Okay, I just put, last night, I just thought I would put some drills up there. This is a three-step drop drill. And you notice we're throwing on the foul line. I like to throw with our catchers on the foul line because it gives them a template for rotation. If the ball cuts or runs off the foul line, you know that you have to adjust your point of release because you have bad rotation. And this one, for me, the big thing here is that quick load, unload. So you take advantage of that stretch shortening cycle where I want to get that arm going as fast as possible. Loading on the inside. Okay. Three-step drop. Okay, next one. This is my favorite throwing drill right here. Positive direction throwing drill. When I get down on my left knee, when I step up to throw, I've got that inside load in here, and I'm automatically, it doesn't allow me to lose my line. And I have all my momentum and all my energy going in the direction of my throw. It's a very simple throw. And to me, this is a great drill for all throwers. And I'm staying loaded, and I talk to them about riding their back leg. Riding their back leg. Okay? And we're throwing, every day our catchers throw with strike balls so they can monitor their rotation. This is a turn and burn drill. This is something that Brent Strom and Wolford and a number of guys. The thing I like about this drill, it establishes the field for momentum and direction. Go ahead, next one. And here's that strike ball. I just take a marking pen, a Sharpie, and put a stripe in the middle of the ball so that now when they throw, they can monitor their spin as they throw the ball. Not only the foul line, but they can see if it has 6 to 12 rotation or if it has a little bit of off-center spin. Okay. Okay, here's the double ball. This is kind of the, are you ready? Okay. All I've done is just taken a double-headed screw here, screw two balls together, and so I'm working on my rotation. So if it's real side to side, but I can really sit, this is good for breaking balls. It's good for the change up to get a kinesthetic feel for it. You can really monitor rotation with this. Okay? Next. Okay, this is a little drill that we put in kind of at the end of all our throwing, kind of throwing on the run, going in one direction, throwing the other way, or throwing on the run. You'll have this a lot of times as a catcher on toppers out in front of the plate where you have to throw to first, second, or third, so we just kind of put this one in our throwing routine. Okay, next. Okay, here's one that I like, and this is a bungee cord throwing. Now, what you're doing is you're throwing against resistance. It does a couple things. As a response to that pull on the backside, it forces you to load inside a little bit better to create that backside V I'm talking about. Also, you get a feel for generating power from the backside to the front. A lot of benefits for this, for me. Okay, next one. Okay, this is just the opposite. Okay, so it wants to pull you forward. Dive forward. Get your center of mass moving away from between your feet. So the response is, with it pulling me forward, A, it gives me good direction, but B, it forces me to stay back and stay loaded on that back side, where I don't jump to that front side. Okay? Okay. I like to play uphill long toss because it gets the throwers in their legs a little bit more. The start of the kinetic chain, so they get a feel for being in their legs. They don't jump out of their legs, puts a little bit more overload on their lower half. Okay, next one. And then some days we'll combine it with our bungee cord. Okay, little variation. Okay, next one. Okay, this is a power drive, and it's kind of like a little teeter-totter. And what it does is, and is the sound on there? Okay, and what this does is, it's got to click down before you start forward. So I'm here, and now I go. So I'm generating.
Okay, now do one where you go first and then it clicks. Where you dive with your head.
Okay, so we want that click to be first down. That's good. Now what he's throwing, he's got a sanitary sock with a ball in his hand. He didn't have anybody to throw with that day. So that now it helps us sequence. This is not a towel drill. I'm not a big fan of the towel drill. He's got a ball in there, he's releasing the ball, so now he has something to time his release. So he doesn't have to chase the ball. Okay, he can do this on his own. Okay, next one. And now same drill where he's throwing. And you don't have to have this expensive power drive. You can have a little K-board, a 1-inch plywood with a 1x2 underneath in the middle of it, and that goes down first. Where you notice it's down, and now I initiate my forward move. All right, next. This is a quick throwing drill, and this is for me to clean up guys with arm problems. Force them to throw fast and see what they do with their arm. See how efficient they are. There's no stall, and he's throwing to second base. It's not totally specific and game-like, but what I'm trying to address is the arm action. I want him to work fast and see how his arm works. And we'll time how many he can do in X number of seconds. Okay, good. Two last drills that we do, two throwing drills, kind of lead-up drills that we do that I'll just show you. We'll start off square, and with our hands out in front of our body, we bring it up into the this power B position, and then throw. But what I'm doing when I'm throwing, I'm taking my left leg and I'm really trying to force couple, just real short doing that. The second one we do is we call it the ultimate torque drill. We'll take our right foot and put it in front of our left foot and really torque, because I want to feel that stretch across my body, and I want to really load that scap up to throw from this position and unwind from there. Then we'll go into our positive direction drill and some of these other drills, the quarterback drill and the turn and burn drill and whatever. And we mix them up on particular days, but we all do some type of lead up fundamental throwing drills. More for certain players, less for other players. But in the big leagues, every day in spring training, we had a throwing protocol that started with, we called it our basic six. Okay, I think I got a couple minutes here. can take a couple questions if you have any. If not, we'll bang it.
Jerry, if you're working with like an 11, 12-year-old catcher, did you go with the same footwork that you talk about, the quick shift in it, or do you try to be a little more right, left throw with the
Well,
I understand.
the quick footwork is right, left throw.
So you do
Yeah.
gain a little
Yeah.
more distance than
Right. With the young guys who lack, it's kind of a trade-off. And Kyle alluded to it before. They don't have a good pattern. You know, the really young guys, and so the more things they have to do, the less apt they are to be successful. And so I might just start with them, catch, load, and throw, and then as they gain more coordination and can sequence things a little bit better, I might start them out with momentum. Most of the young guys do not have enough arm strength to throw with just a catch, load, and throw. So I try and move them into that momentum.
Jerry, what do you teach regarding the throwing pattern before they receive the ball? Where do you want them? You want them in here? Do you want them back?
For me, it doesn't matter. But probably for me, the best position is after I've gotten into my up stance is right there with a loose fist. I prefer to have both hands together. Of course, we used a glove without a break when I caught it, so this is a little bit different. But for me, it's very individualized. I just figure out what's best for them. But there's one, there's two. What I try and get away from is where they get really extended back in here, and then they move. They open up that shoulder joint, yeah, and they get a foul tip off of there. I also want to have caps, chest protectors with caps on both sides. I want them as protected as possible. One more question if we got it. Yes, sir.
Jerry, how do you want to have hold the glove?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. A lot of guys are really sticklers on this glove is up here. For me, it's very individualized. When I put my glove like that, I have zero flexibility in my wrist. I really feel tight. When I turn my glove a little bit sideways here, I've got a lot of flexibility. Now some guys will start up in here, and just as soon as the pitch is, just before the pitch is released, they'll break their hands. The only problem with that is there's a percentage of pitchers that don't like that. Hey, I'm not a quarterback now. Don't give me a moving target. So hold that glove up there. And so either way for me, I like kind of the 3 o'clock, or 2 o'clock type thumb to index finger alignment. Okay, last one.
What are your thoughts on footwork being left or right footed? Do you see a difference?
Oh, well, there is, if you look at the catchers at the upper levels, they're always, if they have a momentum step, it's always with the right foot. It's never with the left foot. The only time you'll lead into a ball with the left foot is on a pitch out. But I'm assuming this is what you're talking about. This and then that.
Now, if you look at motor learning, the quickest way for the body is to use either your right or left foot. Most people are right-footed.
Well, in baseball specific to the sport, when they try and get momentum, it's always, of course, every catcher's right-handed. Okay, it's always, huh?
No, that's true, but I'm right-handed, I'm left-footed. My footwork's...
Well, if I'm left-footed, if I go left foot first, here's what happens. Left, I catch the ball.
No, that's stepping. I mean, pushing off. Your first reaction and taking off.
Well, I think I'm probably, my first reaction is off my left foot, if that's what you're talking about. Because I can't have weight on my right foot and move it. So I'm unweighting. So in that sense, then it's left foot. I'm loaded on this left side, not where I'm leaning, not perceptible, but I would have more weight here when I'm starting here. If I'm going to catch, load, and throw, I'm probably loaded here and throwing without any lead step. But I don't think that's something, that players think about. And for me, that wouldn't be something that I would talk about unless he was really, if he had all his weight here and then was shifting here, and then, maybe you need to load up a little bit better on this side because you want to start with this foot. But in general, that's not that's something that I normally would address, but it's food for thought. It's a good, I haven't thought about that. It's a good one.
Yes, last question.
Yes, sir.
What about an option about in a pitch out position that the catcher can sit already with the left leg in front, a little sideways. So he just has to catch the ball, get up and
Okay,
throw.
so you're talking about...
No, normal, just sitting normal, but with the left leg a little in front.
Well, for me, I'm always have my left leg a little bit in front.
Okay.
Okay, but to get to your point here, one of the things in a normal receiving, see, in a pitch out, I'm moving to the outside part of the plate.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm in the outside part of the plate, I'm going to be square to the plate. Anytime I'm on the inside part of the plate, I'm going to have a slight angle.
Yeah.
The reason being, it allows me to catch more balls to the backhand side where I can control the ball better. Okay, but my left foot is always a little bit in front.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you
Thank
ever
you.
have to cheat with their stance if there's a real runner threat on? I would runner on first, stagger a little more?
No. I mean, you watch Yachty, and he's got, when he sits into a right-hander, he's got a pretty good angle, you know. But that's his normal setup. And there are guys that, in a running situation, will get a little, what Jim's saying, a little bit more sideways and cheat so that they don't have to they can make the transfer and throw quicker. But the reality is, if you time it, there's not much difference, because from the time the ball hits your glove to the time the ball leaves your hands on a video at 30 frames a second, you want it, the big leaguers are somewhere between 19 and 21 frames. So that's what you're shooting for. So you kind of play around from a mechanical standpoint to find out what works. You know, less extended, more proficient transfer, shorter jab step, no jab step, you know, whatever it happens to be to give you the best chance to throw that guy out.
Okay, good. We're going to take our break now, because Kyle's putting the computer over there. We've got to catch up, so really taking a break after this. We'll take about a 5-10 minute break right now.